Good morning, everyone. Bright and early here. Pete Pardo from Sea Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today we're going to look at the very popular enigma from Sweden that is Ghost, a band who's been around since roughly about 2010. They got 4 studio albums, a bunch of EPs, and 12 inches, and a live album, and all this kind of stuff. But we're going to talk about their 4 studio albums. This is the band. Got their start, very satanic lyrics and imagery. You got the band is fronted by this dude named papaemeritus, which he looks like a demonic priest. Okay, but we've had like papaemeritus 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. I don't know. It seems like every other year we get a new one with a different kind of costume and mask and all that stuff. But it's the same guy. His name is Tobias. He's a very talented singer and songwriter and musician. He's actually been in other extreme metal bands in Sweden and what have you. But the band is supposed to be very anonymous. So he's got this whole cast of the nameless ghouls, right, backing him up. From what you've heard and read, it's like a different cast of characters every tour, every album, on guitars, bass, drums, and keyboards. But Tobias, excuse me, it's early in the morning. Tobias is like the main guy, right? He's the guy running the show. So we got 4 albums, so I'm going to rank them as I like them. And, I think this is one of those bands that I think when they first came out, my first thought was like, oh my God, so gimmicky, I'm not really interested. But then so many people were really into them. I started to listen to their music. I was like, you know what, there's some serious musicianship going on here and some really good music, some really catchy stuff. These guys know how to write a good hook and a catchy tune, but it seems like they're getting away from their like heavy metal origins, so to speak, and they're becoming like almost too reliant on the gimmick, and now it's like almost like they would much rather do kind of like catchy pop music, which all right, they can do that very well, but I think they really kind of played up their early part of their career appealing to the metal audience, and you have to wonder if at some point the metal audience is going to kind of leave them behind, because they seem like they're moving further and further away from it. But what are you going to do? So let's start off with my number 4. I'm going to go to 2018 for the album called Prequel. All right, really cool artwork and cover. It's just the whole thing just kind of looks really interesting. But I was kind of like, I don't know. This album just really doesn't do a hell of a lot for me. It's got some, let's face it. Tobias Forge knows how to write a good hook. I think we said that already. You got the song called Rats on here. The very kind of bizarre but very poppy Danse Macabre. You got Witch Image, See the Light. A couple of instrumentals on here. It's not a very long album. It's just about 40 minutes, but you got a couple little brief bits and things like that. But, Pro Memoria, Faith. I don't know. This album to me is very poppy. It's got some good hard rock moments, a little bit of proggy moments and things like that. But I don't know. As a whole, I think this is by far their least successful album. But there's a lot of people who dig this. So, I can't say I really can blame anybody for liking it, because it's pretty accessible. It's pretty accessible. All right, so my number 3 is going to be their 2013 release. So here they kind of went briefly under the name of Ghost BC, because there was a copyright issue with another band named Ghost that's since been rectified. So for this one album, they went with Ghost BC for a little bit in the early pressings, but I think you can also actually get the versions of this album that do not have the BC, where they took care of all the legal issues and re-released it, repressed it with just the Ghost name. So here, the name of this album is called Infestismom. All right, not too bad. Okay, not too bad. This album is, their second release, not as kind of, their first album is kind of like a juggernaut. It's pretty damn heavy. It's very kind of like Merciful Fate meets Blue Oyster Cult. I think this one went much, much more in kind of like a proggy direction. Still really good. You got Body and Blood on here, Secular Haze. You got Paraspera, Ad Inferi. Some really cool ideas, these chants and haunting passages and whatnot. And Papa's really very accessible, listenable vocal style. Like I said, he kind of sounds like Buck Dahmer from Blue Oyster Cult. So if you like kind of Don't Fear the Reaper and, Burning for You, that sort of thing, those really cool harmonies kind of come into play on some of these albums. But, you got Depths of Satan's Eyes, you got, like I said, Body and Blood, Year Zero, some really cool stuff on here. Again, still kind of retaining some of that satanic element, but the music is not quite as heavy as the first album. Speaking of the first album, all right, so the first album is called Opus Anonymous from 2010, October 18, 2010. This is a pretty heavy album. Okay, pretty heavy album. So here you have the Nameless Ghouls and Papaemeritus coming onto the scene for the first time. This is, if you remember kind of like the first time you heard like Melissa and Don't Break the Oath from Merciful Fate, that's kind of like you get that very similar feel here. It's very chilling, very creepy, very evil sounding stuff. But again, there's that very melodic, catchy part to their music. Okay, and this album is more of a silly album, relying less on kind of trying to be cute with the melodies and stuff like that. This is probably their most serious album. I always kind of like the evil looking cover. You got Conclave con Dio, you got Ritual, Elizabeth, Satan Prayer, Death Knell, Prime Mover. Good stuff on here. Good heavy riffing. Lots of good guitar solos, lots of cool keyboards. The vocals, like I said, are haunting yet very catchy. I dig this album. I dig it. But I remember I put off even trying to get into these guys for a long time. I was kind of like, I'm not going to buy into the hype. But man, so many people were into them. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I'm like, you know what? This isn't too bad. But by far my favorite album by them is their 2015 album, their third album called Meliora. This is a really good album. This by far is, to my mind, the album that works the best because it combines the old and the new for them. It's very accessible, yet it's pretty heavy. It's kind of proggy. I mean, it won a Grammy Award, for Christ's sake. Not that that really means much in this day and age, but, a lot of people had their eyes on this band. Okay, and some really, really good songs on here. You got Spirit, you got From the Pinnacle to the Pit. Love the kind of little whispers and things he adds in some of these songs. You got what He Is. He is a great haunting tune. Love the kind of the choirs and things on this album, right? The chanting and stuff like that. Mummy Dust, the Mummy Dust. Just awesome stuff. He Is, Majesty, Devil Church, Circe, Deus in Absentia. A lot of really good songs on here, but just so catchy. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was like a top 10 Billboard chart debut album. I mean, it's like an unheard of for a band like this, right? Just absolutely unheard of. But here, I mean, this is just really cool. And it's even kind of, some of the stuff is kind of psychedelic because the arrangements are really off kilter and very quirky. Like I said, they mix kind of like psychedelia, pop, classic 70s prog, heavy metal, extreme metal, even touches of doom from time to time. Just a really, really unique band that I think has a lot of interesting things to say, and their albums are very, very listenable. But I find that I see the direction they're going with here. And and as well on their Pope Star EP, and they've released another one recently that I haven't heard. But like Square Hammer. Square Hammer is a great song. It's absolutely so addictive, and it's catchy beyond belief. But again, Square Hammer is so far removed from like their first album or two. And you just have to wonder if they continue to go in that direction, they're going to completely leave the metal community behind. And maybe that's not such a bad thing because, let's face it, I think playing kind of like catchy pop rock, music in this day and age, you're probably going to get more people listening to you than playing, satanic 80s style heavy metal and hard rock, right? It's just the way it goes. But... and they keep changing their costumes and the way they look and all this kind of stuff. But, I think a pretty cool band nonetheless. And if you haven't kind of jumped on the Ghost train, the Ghost Train. If you haven't jumped on the Ghost Train by now, they're definitely worth a listen. But I would definitely check out Meliora. Okay, like I said, that's their third album. I think this is their best. And then go and investigate the rest of the catalog. Some really good stuff here. For some people, like I said, the satanic imagery thing from early on is enough to scare them away. For some people, the whole image thing with the costumes and the masks and all that is kind of ridiculous in this day and age. But like I said, they have the music to back it up. Pretty talented band. Good songwriter. That guy Tobias, he knows how to put together a catchy tune. We'll see where they go in the years ahead of us, right? Because they're going to stay and be one of the top metal bands on the planet, or are they going to kind of just leave metal behind and go off into all sorts of different directions? Time will tell. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org, where you can find reviews of all of these albums. Okay, visit us on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter. And, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Don't touch that dial. Martin Popoff coming back on the show yet again for part 3 of our bands who have long runs of really bad album covers. That's coming up. So stay tuned for that and more stuff all week. All right. So I'm on vacation, so I'm pumping that stuff left and right. So you don't want to miss any of it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.